A 66% win rate, 107 total trades, and a mechanical 1-to-3 risk-to-reward ratio system. These are the results that we got recently backtesting gold over the 2024 price action. However, in today's video, we're going to be applying the same system to test the 2025 price action. Now, if you're like most people and you struggle to trade gold consistently, the reason is probably that you have a lack of a clear-cut system to follow with a repeatable and mechanical rule set. Now, in today's video, I'm not only going to be revealing the full strategy that I personally use to trade gold and the one that ultimately allowed me to go full time, but we're also going to be backtesting it over around 40 minutes or so that you guys can see numerous trade examples. So let's not waste any more time. Let's head right over to the charts and let's get straight into the video. Right guys, so thanks for joining me here over on the charts. We will get right back into things from where we left off last time. So first of all, and first thing I do when I come to the charts is I'm going to mark on higher time frame direction. So here on daily time frame, we can see that price was overall bullish. It had come down, swept some previous lows, given us a breaker structure to the upside, and then entered this retracement phase. But once it swept these previous daily lows into the imbalance below, that's where it reverses from, right? So we can also see on 4-hour time frame that price had come down and reacted from this area 4-hour demand. So what I'm going to do here is just mark on the structure. You can see that price came down, bearish trend. Once it tapped into this 4-hour demand, swept the liquidity, then we get that shift back bullish just here. Again, price continues up with that bullish trend. We have price creating or reacting from this demand, creating a new breaker structure right here. And then we also most recently had another one here as well, as you guys can see. So yeah, what I would be looking out for here, if we jump over to hourly chart, what I'm essentially looking for now is any points of interest where we could look to buy from. And for myself, a point of interest is just simply an area of imbalanced supply or demand or a previous liquidity level. So here what we can see is that all of this range, right, is efficient price action. So I can't really see a clear point of interest here. So what I would look for instead is for price to maybe come back down, take out this previous low, or maybe tap into, for example, this area of demand just here, which we can see price has kind of induced. It created that liquidity above it, didn't quite tap into it, and this is just overall a very clear area of imbalanced demand. So let's see how it develops from here. Yeah, there we go. So we're seeing that bigger retracement, right? 4-hour time frame. We could actually see some sells here. So notice how price has kind of grabbed this high, is pushed back down towards these previous lows just here, but it hasn't yet taken out this previous low, right? So what, based on the probability here, even though the price was overall bullish, what we can expect is for price to at least take out this previous low before continuing the overall bullish trend. So what we could maybe look for here, based on how it's developed, is maybe if we can see a retracement into kind of this whole area as a supply zone, we could maybe look for some sells down. So let's have a look. One of the things that I always tell the guys inside VIP, by the way, is that don't just stay married to one particular bias. Kind of keep an open mind and react to price rather than trying to predict it. So what I mean by that is, you guys know from before, I was looking for the buys within this range, but once I saw price make this move down after sweeping these highs, I reacted to that, and we're now looking for sells, right? I didn't stay married to the buys. So this is the Asian session, so I'm just going to fast forward this. Right, so yeah, this is looking pretty good. So London session pushed up, grabbed Asia high. We haven't yet seen a change of character. For an entry, by the way, guys, I need to see a change of character for on the M5 time frame, and always on the M5 time frame. That's the only entry time frame I use. So if we can see a closure below this low, something like that, we can now look for a potential entry. So on this one, in terms of actually entering the trade, what I would want to see is for price to retrace back up into the imbalance. Here we can see we had price create that change of character. This is the last bit of liquidity before the imbalance. So what I'm not going to do is over refine my entry to the supply zone itself. It's going to be very rare that price comes all the way back up there and tags you into the exact pit. That's not how I like to trade. I personally like to get this more kind of general entry rather than trying to be a sniper trader like all these gurus you see online, just trying to get these really precise entries for the sake of not really much. So we're going to enter here, stops above the high, and I always use the mechanical 1 to 3 risk to reward. The reason I'm doing that is because it helps to remove any of the discretion and uncertainty in terms of where you're targeting, so it makes the strategy more rinse and repeat and more mechanical as well. So we'll set the limit here. Right, nice, price has tagged us in. Nice reaction so far. Yeah, very nice. That was actually perfect. So again, guys, notice that when price retraces, it very often reverses after sweeping that last bit of liquidity before the imbalance, if you see this change of character, right? So, and also crucially in this case, it happened within a supply zone to the left after sweeping Asia high as well. So we had numerous confluences on that. But yeah, nevertheless, a great start to the session. And yeah, back to the buys now, because one thing that we're aware of here is even though we did just capitalize on the sells, price is still overall in this bullish trend, right? And it's just retraced into a daily demand zone in an overall bullish market. So this is why we could maybe see some some buys come back in. So gonna monitor this area of demand. We also have, if this one doesn't hold, another one down here just below it. So yeah, let's see how price develops within this area. Obviously still waiting for an M5 change of character as always, just to confirm the trade. A wick above, by the way, is not valid for me. I need to see a clear closure above. Yeah, so that first one didn't hold. Price has now tapped into the second one, but this is the Asian session, so I'm just going to fast forward this first. Yeah, this is nice though. Notice this. So price tapped into our POI. It's given us a clear 5-minute change of character right here. And we have this area of imbalanced demand just here beneath an area of previous liquidity. So this meets all of our criteria. I'm going to set my limit on this area, stops just below, and go for a mechanical 1 to 3. And by the way, one quick tip for you guys. When looking for entries, obviously in this case you have this imbalanced demand, but you also have this one down here. One thing I like to do with the entries in order to know which one to enter off is consider momentum. So here we've had this impulsive momentum away and price has built liquidity above this first zone. So my thought process here is that if price comes down all the way back down to this extreme, it's probably just going to be bearish and take out the low. So I would rather just enter on this area instead, rather than trying to, you know, call like the exact bottom and for price to come down all the way to this area. So yeah, let's see if this wants to retrace for us or not. At the moment, it doesn't seem like it, but yeah, this is still valid at the moment, so I'm going to keep the limit order active. I might actually monitor here to see if we can get an entry confirmation on this demand, just in case price misses our initial entry. So you can see here, we've had that very clear shift back bullish, both on the M5 and M15. Price has done this very corrective and choppy pullback. When you see a corrective pullback like this, by the way, guys, where it's just moving very sideways with not much imbalance and no clear intent, that's typically a good indication that price is likely continuing over to the upside, and this is just a retracement phase. So yeah, let's monitor to see how price reacts to this area. For a change of character in this case, we need to see at the moment a break above this high. Yeah, there we go. So we've seen price tap into this POI, give us a change of character. We have an area of imbalanced demand just below some previous liquidity. So obviously in this case, we want to see price retrace a little bit, because otherwise the risk to reward won't be worth it. And once again, just going for that mechanical 1 to 3 approach. So with this trade, this becomes invalid if price breaks the high, first of all, because then this is no longer a change of character. Price has created a new breaker structure, right? So I'll cancel the trade if this high breaks first, but let's see if this retraces. Right, cool. So we are now in this trade. I'll keep the initial limit as well, just in case price does want to come back to that one instead. Yeah, there we go. Perfect reaction from that demand. I'm going to delete the original limit now instead. And obviously we've had a new breaker structure here as well. So very clean trade so far. Let's see how it continues. Yeah, there we go. Nice one. TP hit on that. Very clean trade. So once again, you can see now price has tapped into the demand. We've very clearly seen the shift back bullish. Bear in mind here as well that a lot of people are now going to be viewing this as a change of character. But here's another tip for you guys, one that I like to emphasize to the guys inside VIP, which is that whenever you have a clear bullish market and you see something like this, don't be so quick to interpret it as a change of character, because 9 times out of 10 in a bullish market, price is just going to sweep some previous lows for higher prices. So this is not necessarily a change of character for a complete reversal. It's probably just a sweep for higher prices, particularly if you look to the left, right? Price has not really come into anything significant here. It's just reacting from this random area. There's no liquidity being taken out and there's no clear supply. So the chances are that we just see that continuation on over to the upside here. Next point of interest for me, we have this extreme demand. I'm liking the look of this one because we have some inducement above it now as well, like these previous lows here. So let's see if price, yeah, there we go. So we're getting a pullback. We could definitely see either price come into this demand, but we also actually have this one. I would monitor this one as well. Right, so price has come into this first area. Let's have a look on the M5. Yep, there we go. So price has just come back down. Notice here again how you have that same scenario that we had on the 4-hour, but now on the hourly chart, right? This looks like a change of character just here. But how I would interpret this, because of the overall bullish trend, is just a sweep into the imbalanced demand. Because when price retraces, right, it's always going to take out some previous internal lows before heading higher. So 9 times out of 10, this is not going to be a change of character, and this is going to be just a sweep for higher prices. Going to fast forward the Asian session here. Yeah, there you go. So this would have been the ideal entry, but this happened during Asia. We had that change of character. Price is now very clearly shifted back bullish. What I'm going to do here, rather than missing the whole trade, you can see price has come down and reacted from this demand and pushed away from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter here, market execution, and just have stops below this demand. And we will see how this plays out. Nice reaction so far. Yeah, there we go. TP hit on that one. So that's another tip as well, guys. Like, just because you miss this initial entry doesn't mean you have to miss the whole move. As long as your stop loss covers or is in a place that makes sense for the buys, you can just follow that lower time frame structure back up to the opposing liquidity, in this case at these highs. So let's zoom back out. Next idea. We have this area of demand at the extreme, right? That's a valid POI. But what I would also monitor here is if we look back on lower time frame, you can see that there's not really a POI here that I would go from. But if price could come down, sweep this last low before the imbalance, that would be a valid point of interest, because once again, we have this last bit of liquidity before the imbalance. So this is where price is likely to react from. So, right, price has swept this low. Let's see how it develops from here. Obviously, still waiting for that entry model. Right, we have had a change of character here, but there's no imbalanced demand, so this is not quite valid for myself. Right, there we go. Now we've seen it. So price has created a clear change of character here. Very clear imbalance. So in a case like this, where there's not really a clear POI, I would be waiting for a retracement into this area. So if we set a limit here on this area of demand, stops a little bit below, because one thing gold likes to do a lot is re-grab the lows. So I always kind of make a little bit more room below the stop loss or above it in the case of buys. But yeah, let's see how it reacts to this area, guys. Damn, I think we were just slightly too early there. We just got wicked out. Yeah, damn, that's annoying. So if you observe what happened here, right? Price swept the low one last time. We've now had a very clear and intentional change of character to the upside. So what we can maybe look for here, this is a perfectly valid re-entry. So if price can retrace into the demand, I'm going to enter on here. Stops a bit below again and go for that 1 to 3. The reason I'm on the M15 here, by the way, guys, is just because if you look on the M5, The structure is exactly the same. This is the change of character on the M5 and the M15, but in this case it just so happens that the M15 looks a bit clearer. We have this area of clear demand, whereas on the M5 it's not as clean. Huh, damn, that's so annoying. It came like one pip away or so from the TP, came back down, took our stop loss, and it looks like it's probably going to head for the highs now. So let's see if we can get back in. So we've had another breaker structure here. Price has retraced into the range between the low and the high of that current bullish leg. Swept some previous lows, giving us a change of character on M5. The only thing here is that there's not really anything I would enter from. So let me just let this develop a bit. Yeah, there you go. So gold just being gold just flew in that case with no pullbacks for us. That's fine. We can now look for another trade opportunity. We can see price has broken this high again. Very clear bullish trend. So what we're looking for longer term is for price basically just to head back up towards this high. That's the main structure, right? So let's look for another retracement here. See if we can get in on the longs. Next POI for me, we kind of have this area. If price retraces into it, I wouldn't really buy anywhere above this at the moment. Yeah, there we go. So price tapped into it, swept some previous lows. Again, I wouldn't be so quick to say that this is a change of character. I would just interpret it as a sweep into the demand. In this case, it's going to be hard to get an entry because there's no structure here, right? There's no like M5 change of character or anything. So let me just play price on. Yeah, there we go. So perfect analysis, but no entry, unfortunately. We've had another breaker structure here. So now we can look for another retracement. Let's see. Next point of interest. Maybe if this low gets taken. Nope. So again, gold just being gold, just rallying with no pullbacks. We can now also delete this though, because this becomes the internal structure. Notice how price has broken the main high to the left, which was this one right here. Cool. And what we can kind of anticipate now is that if you notice where price is heading for, it's kind of gravitating towards this next high. So if this high is swept, I would consider sells if we get something very obvious and price very clearly shifts back bearish. Keeping in mind though that that's probably just going to be a retracement for eventual higher prices. But yeah, for the time being, let's look for some longs up into it. Still seems quite bullish at the moment, so not really going to be too quick to jump on the sells. We have this POI. Maybe we can see some more longs from there. All right, let's have a look. Can we get a decent risk to reward if we enter here? Not really. I'm going to leave that one. Maybe if price can re-grab the low. No. So great analysis, but there wasn't really a high risk to reward entry there, or high enough risk to reward entry. Yeah, there you go. So you can see price breaking lower after having swept that liquidity level. So once again, guys, make sure to always pay attention to these liquidity levels. Once that high is taken, you know, there's a very high chance price starts to reverse from there. Obviously, it's still overall bullish on higher time frame, but this could be the start of a bigger retracement. You can see we do have like a daily demand here. Maybe price wants to retrace into that. Let me just get rid of this mess. There we go. On 4 hour as well, what else can we see? We kind of have this POI, if we refine it, just here. That's like a hourly demand zone. So maybe we could capitalize on some sells down into it. You can see that the hourly has kind of shifted bearish. And the difference between this case, by the way, guys, is that I would say this is a change of character because of where it happened, and it happened after sweeping that liquidity to the left, which makes it more significant and more likely to lead to a move lower, right? So Maybe if we can see a retracement into the supply zone, I'll look for some shorts. No, doesn't seem like it wants to retrace up there. Maybe from here. So if we're marking on the structure, right, we've had this being a 15-minute break of structure. Price has retraced into the 15-minute supply. Still hasn't tapped into that demand zone. Yeah, we've got our M5 change of character as well, just here, with an area of imbalanced supply. So if price can retrace into this area, I would be willing to sell from here. Slightly risky because it is a bit against the overall trend, but that's fine. We're obviously up a decent buffer anyway, so we're just risking profits at this point. All right, nope, so little loss on that one. That's fine. Might have just been slightly too early here. If this wasn't in Asia, probably could get a re-entry from here, but it is in Asia, so not going to take this. Slightly messy conditions. I might just leave this for the time being. Has taken out the top of that supply zone. So this is typically when you're going to see price react. I'm going to leave the sells now, though, and just wait for the buys, to be honest. Actually, this could be nice. So price has induced that hourly demand, right? And is starting to retrace. So maybe if we can see it retrace into the supply, we could look for some more sells. I might have one last go at the sells. So we've seen it react to the supply. I think this is in Asia, though. Yeah, this is Asia, so I'm going to fast forward that. Yeah, that would have been perfect, but happened during Asia, unfortunately. So I'm going to get rid of these markings now because very clearly, one thing I'm liking about the buys here, right, is price has come into this area of demand. And we've got, just notice how like all this liquidity is built up here. There's a lot of people selling at these previous highs. So this is a very good kind of scenario to have because even if we're wrong about the buys, price is likely to give some sort of pop up to take out that previous liquidity. So let's jump to the M5. Let's have a look if we can get an entry here. Obviously waiting for that same entry confirmation as per usual. Currently, for a change of character, we would need to see price break Asia high up here. I might actually monitor this demand. I would want to see a confirmation in this demand, but let's monitor it. Right, price has come into the demand. It's taken out a lot of lows. Fast forward Asia session. Nope, so we've had another move lower. That's fine. So since price is still within this demand, I would just be viewing this as like a sweep. Very nicely as well, London Open has swept Asia low. So let's see if we can get a change of character from here. Currently, I would want to see this high broken. Now this high. Notice how price is kind of forming low, like smaller and smaller retracements here as well. It's kind of slowing down a little bit, you could say. Yeah, there you go. So very clear and impulsive change of character on M5. I'm going to wait for a small retracement here with stops below the low. Obviously, if I enter all the way up here, the risk reward is going to be a bit ruined, so I don't want to do that. Actually, I think in this case, the risk reward is fine. I'm just going to enter here, market execution. This is one thing I personally like to do is don't over refine the entry to the supply zones themselves. Sometimes it's fine to just do market execution. Particularly on gold, sometimes it just doesn't retrace for you. It's going well so far. Let's see. Yeah, so in this case, it would have ended up retracing for you anyway. This is a good sign, though. You can see prices come down, grab some lows into the demand, and we've seen another break of structure right here. Very clear momentum coming in now as well. And yeah, there we go. Nice TP hit on that one. Obviously, could have got a better entry there, but we still made profit, so it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Yeah, so now just looking for some more continuations, essentially. It has tapped into that daily demand zone, so we could maybe see just a push back up into these highs. That's what I would be looking for anyway. So let's see here what happens. Maybe we could see another buy from this demand. Gonna fast forward Asia first. Cool, so price has tapped into that demand. Asia low swept during London Open as well. Let's see what happens here. Nice, so we've had 5-minute change of character. Wasn't really an entry there for me. Yeah, so you can see it kind of like came down and reacted from this area, but there wasn't really a clear entry to set a limit on there, to be honest. Alright, so price wanted to sell back off anyway. That's fine. So if we zoom back out now, it does look like price wants to continue a bit lower. So what we could maybe look for here instead, you can see to the left as well, looking here, there's significantly like nothing for price to react from. There's no liquidity level here. There's no area of demand. So what I would be at least looking for now, obviously keeping in mind that higher time frame is still bullish, but we're seeing this bigger retracement after that liquidity was swept. So what I would look for now is for at least a move down into this opposing liquidity. And obviously we can now look for some shorts down into it. So following this trend, we've had this being our most recent breaker structure. I'm not really seeing a clear POI here, so I'm just going to let it develop a bit. Maybe if we can see a move up into the supply. Probably can refine this a little bit as well. Maybe to this area. What does that look like on 4 hour? Yeah, so 4 hours like this whole candle here. Notice as well, price has pushed down towards the lows, hasn't yet taken out the lows. So this is a nice situation where we can look to short into the lows. So yeah, let's see if price can push up into this supply. I wouldn't sell below this. There's not really enough confluences for me. Cool. Let me just fast forward Asia. Right, London Open swept Asia high into this area of supply, which is this box we're in. So jumping over to the M5. There we go. So we're getting that clear shift back bearish just here. As before, you could refine your entry to the supply zone itself. What I'm going to do is take this whole region, which is the consolidation that price broke out of, and I'm just going to set my limit on this area. Stops a little bit above, and as always, we go for a 1 to 3. Notice here as well how price has kind of come up again very slowly, correctively. There's no imbalance here. It's just very efficient price action, and we've kind of got all of this built up liquidity here. So I'm going to set my limit, and we will see how this goes. Oh, wrong button. Let me place this. Place. There we go. Damn, slightly missed us, as you guys can see. Wow, that's annoying. Missed us by like a pip there. You can see it swept this high and missed. Slightly annoying. I'm going to delete this limit now because it's no longer valid. Obviously, if price comes up all the way back to this point at this moment in time, it's probably not going to respect our analysis anymore. So actually, in saying that, we still have this kind of hourly POI, but because of how far it got away, I would want to see another confirmation in this area. So yeah, let's see if price can push up into it. Actually, no, we should have been looking at this one instead. That's annoying. I basically just wasn't focused there. So Let's see, price is still selling off at the moment. We've had another break of structure right here. Has it swept that higher time frame low yet? Let's have a look. Almost. So yeah, I'm going to mark this on just to see if price reacts to it. Actually, no, my bad. It has swept it, as you guys can see. Still looking very bearish at the moment, though. Seems like it wants to continue lower. Yeah, so next area I would look for. Maybe if price can retest into this area of daily demand. This whole region here was a previous daily demand. So if price can tap back into it like that, maybe we can look for some more buys. Again, rather than viewing this as like a big change of character for a complete reversal, just seeing this as like a sweep for higher prices given the overall daily trend. And one of the things and one of the kind of tips I tell the guys inside VIP as well is that when you're using this approach of liquidity and supply and demand, you don't always have to be right about long-term direction, because let's say, for example, price doesn't completely rally straight to the highs from here. We still know that because this is a clear area of daily demand and we've had higher time frame lows taken out, you're likely to see some sort of bounce away from it. So based on that, we can still look to capitalize on longs from here. So let me fast forward Asia. You can see as well, we've had this very nice mitigation of demand, very clear change of character on M5 and M15, and price has created an area of imbalanced demand. So this is a perfectly valid trade setup. I'm going to enter here. Stops a little bit below. I want to have my stop in this case just below this FVG or imbalance, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, we'll place this trade and let's see how it goes if price pulls back for us. Yep, there we go. So price has pulled back into our demand, swept some previous lows into it. So this is looking good. Yeah, nice. So there we go. TP hit on that one. Very quick trade. And price has now very clearly shifted back bullish as well from that area of demand we mentioned. So let's look for another trade. At the moment, let's see, price just seems to be rallying. Potentially monitoring this previous liquidity. So notice how we've had price push up, right? This is the next liquidity level you would expect it to react from, but there's nothing in between. So you at least expect price to come up into this high. Now, if we're looking for another buying opportunity here, not really. Yeah, it looks like price just wants to rally straight up into it. That's fine. Maybe we could see a counter trend opportunity here. Let's have a look. Yeah, I'm actually going to get in a sell here. So we've seen price sweep that high. We've seen a clear change of character. Just that. And we have this area of supply. Slightly risky trade because it's counter trend, but let's see. Go for a 1 to 3. Place the order. Right, we're tagged in. Let's have a look. Nice reaction so far. Yeah, I didn't really explain the thought process behind this. So thought process here is price has taken out that liquidity to the left. You could, so when I said at the beginning of this video, I tend to like keeping an open bias and not staying married to one particular direction. So in this case, right, one interpretation you could take is that this was a change of character. Therefore, this is just a retracement for price to put in a new low. Regardless of whether we're right about that or not, like I said before, you can kind of catch the reaction from the liquidity levels and maybe see, for example, a retracement down into the demand. We've obviously had this big bullish move. At some point, that's going to get faded and price is going to fill in a little bit of it. Oh, no. So in that case, we had price almost TP and then just came up and stopped us out. Slightly annoying, but, you know, I said that was slightly riskier, so not really too worried about that. Could have just been, yeah, looks like we were just slightly too early on that one. So, yeah, next area of interest for longs is this area of demand down here. If price can retrace down into it. Could maybe see some sells from here in this area of supply. Has kind of created a an hourly change of character here. Let's jump over to the M5. Yeah, I missed my entry there. So this was the change of character we should have been entering on this supply. I might actually catch a late entry here. So we have this area just above some liquidity. All right, there we go. So we're tagged into this now. Yeah, there we go. Nice one. So TP hit on that one. And I think that's a great place to stop this. And we will continue the backtesting next time. But before we do that, let's just have a quick look at the analytics that we've had so far. So yeah, overall, we've had a 60% win rate across around 7 months or so worth of data and a mechanical 1-to-3 risk to reward. The max loss streak we had was 3, so good drawdown management. I won't bore you guys with all of these statistics, but you can just pause the screen here and scroll through them in your own time if you wish. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching this video. As always, I will leave a free trading plan document in the description below. And if you did miss any of the previous parts to this gold backtesting series, I'll put the playlist up here on the screen. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found some value from it, and I will see you in the next one.